if you're paying attention. So we're going to be talking about tab traps, focus fails, and ARIA fixes. So it is accessibility, but in the context of Drupal. But first, I'm going to introduce myself. I am Maria. I'm a certified professional web accessibility from certified from the International Association of Accessibility Professionals. But I'm also a Drupal developer. I'm the accessibility lead at Agile Collective, which is a worker co-op based mostly in the UK, but in other places in Europe as well. I'm also the accessibility lead for the local gov Drupal project. I do build things. I write code, but I do a lot of testing. And so what I'm going to be talking about is some of the things that are common things I've found when I've been testing my own work and other people's work. Here's a slide about Agile Collective. There's some faces. We're lovely. But today we're going to talk about accessibility. Yay! But I am going to jump into the deep end. This isn't like an introduction to accessibility talk. I'm not going to tell you about like accessibility is really important. You have to care about it. I'm going to just pretend. I'm just going to assume we're all there already. And we're going to just get into fixing stuff. So what we're going to actually talk about today, we're going to be looking particularly at interactive components, specifically things that change when we interact with them. We're going to look at a few examples to see how they should work. But hopefully those examples, you'll be able to like reuse the concepts in whatever it is that you're building. So we're going to be looking through the lens of kind of keyboard navigation first, tab management, focus management, and then we're going to skip for a bit over into looking at ARIA and use the lens of like a screen reader to look at that. It's a slightly scattergun approach, but I'm really hoping there's something here that can kind of help build and cement your practice. Yeah, I just want you to leave with more confidence to be doing a bit better. It's going to be fun. But a couple of terms first, in case you don't know them. Assistive technology is a piece of is any device or software or equipment that helps folk with disabilities or impairments increase, maintain, or improve their functional capabilities. An example of that is a screen reader, which is a piece of software which converts text in the form of images or interface elements from the screen into synthesized speech. And we'll hear an example of how that sounds later, into speech or braille, actually. So, keyboard navigation. So I'm sure you'll know that keyboard navigation is the backbone or one of the backbones of accessibility. It works by using the browser's event handling to map specific key presses into logical focus orders in the DOM. The great thing about a physical keyboard, is that you can learn where the keys are without looking or if you can't see. It's also a really simple device. So those actions, those key presses, can be mapped onto other input devices. So when we talk about testing for keyboard navigation, we're also doing a lot of the groundwork for doing testing with other input devices. Okay, so I'm going to show you a little video. It's pretty simple. It's demonstrating interacting with a custom date widget using the keyboard. So we use tab to skip through interactive components. We can use the enter key to click that component, then using arrows to pick a date, and enter to choose the thing. Exciting. So will be tab enter into this modal. We can navigate these buttons. Now we can use the arrow keys to pick a date, tab to the OK key, and hit return. Yeah, pretty simple. I'm sure you know how that works. However, there were quite a few important things that happened there in that little simple example. I'll just talk through them. When we clicked the button to open the modal, our focus, the keyboard focus, moved into that modal so that we were able to navigate it and use it. The second thing is when we got to the last item in the modal, we circle back to the top of the modal. So we could circle round the elements in that modal until we purposefully exit it. Third thing, we could exit the modal. And the fourth thing, when we exited the modal, our focus went back to the button that triggered it. I'll show you another video just so you can talk that and sort out my Brittany mic. That's okay. I'll press play in the meantime. Will I? There we go. So now we're in the modal, the focus is in the modal. We can skip round the round, so we're circling around that and not going out onto the page. When we cancel, our focus is back on the button that triggered it in the first place. So how do we do it? I hear you ask. So first we're going to look at this in the context of a modal, but these elements that I've just pointed out, managing focus, trapping it when necessary, we'll also want to think about in other contexts, like maybe a complex mega menu, maybe your cookie banner. This isn't working for me. Can we use the other one? It will slow down my dance routine. So common thread is when we need the user to interact with a thing in the page, then we'll want to restrict their focus into that thing. So we're going to use something that comes in Drupal now. It's called Tabbing Manager. There's some words on the page there. I'm not going to read them. They're on Drupal.org. Here is some code. You don't have to read it all. It's JavaScript. Basically, we're setting the trigger and the modal and the close button. But the main things that are happening is in the open modal function. First of all, we're removing the hidden attribute from the modal, so it appears. But then we're using this tabbing context equals Drupal tabbing manager dot constrain modal. So we are constraining the tabbing to the modal. And then we've got this optional argument of trap focus true. Now we add that's optional, you don't have to do it. That will mean that we actually trap focus to the modal. If you don't have that, focus will go via the browser bar as well to your search and everything. So that traps it just to that modal and doesn't let you out of the page. Use it with care. And then we're moving the focus to the close button. I'll show you how that example in a second. So that's where we decide to put the focus in the modal. Then, obviously, we've got to release it with the close modal function. So there we're setting the attribute hidden back on the modal, and then we're releasing the tab context, so letting tab go, the tabbing be free, and setting it to null. And then we're removing, we're putting the trigger, the focus back on the trigger button that started us off. Let's see it. Yeah. It's a little thing I made. So we're in the modal. Focus started on the close button because I told it to. Now we can focus. We can circle around this. I seem to remember I do it a few too many times. There we are again. Then we close and the focus goes back to the trigger. Kind of cool. Very easy to do. There is even easier to do it. But so you can do it just like this in Drupal. So we can just add a link with the class useAjax with the data dialog type of modal. And that builds in all of that fun stuff for you. Why did I bother telling you about it? It's important to know like the things that we need to build into these components that we're building, even if there's quicker ways to do it, so that when we're testing for it, we know whether it's broken. I think. What now? What's this going to be? Oh yeah, this was doing the other way. You might have noticed that it was we're loading a node in that version, but it's still got all of that same stuff built in. So that where I've seen this done wrong, and the consequences of that. So often I'll see someone, we've got a button that opens a modal, and we don't actually move focus into the modal. So now we've got something that's obscuring the stuff on the page, and a person using a keyboard can't interact with it, and they can't see what's behind there. So they can't do the thing that you've asked them to do, and they can't do anything else. Another thing that I've seen is we open the modal. focus moves in there, but there's no way of exiting it without, let's say it's like signing up to a newsletter or giving your card details or something. There's no way of exiting it without actually submitting that form. If you're a mouse user, you can click somewhere else on the page to close that modal. But if you're a keyboard user, you're basically stuck. So people are left having to, maybe, if they can, reach for their mouse to click away. Maybe they can't do that. Maybe that causes a lot of pain. They might have to go and ask someone to help them get out of this situation, which is not cool. It's like insecure, it's undignified, and it's really inefficient. So just some of the reasons. Okay, ARIA. I'll talk about ARIA, but I will drink some water first. I set myself the challenge to get through this in less than 40 minutes. Going fast. Okay, ARIA. Right. I'll talk about ARIA in a second, but first I'm just going to go back a couple of steps to go through some of the mechanics. The accessibility tree. Has anyone heard of the accessibility tree? Cool. So it's a simplified version of the DOM created by the web browser to help assistive technology understand and interact with the web page. So this is actually how it all works. But assistive technologies refer to the accessibility tree to find out what's going on or interact with it as well. They poll it for, when there's an element on the page, they poll it for what an element is. We can infer what it does from that, what it's called, and what state it's in. So for example, we have an element, which is a button. That's what it is. It implies that it can be clicked. It's called submit, and it's currently unclicked. And it's also not disabled. So a screen reader would then announce that as just submit button, so taking the name and the role from there. Most of the time, all of this can be done with semantic HTML. We don't really need to go near ARIA to do this. HTML elements have an implicit role and a name, and we don't have to worry about it. There's a little demo now of a screen reader reading some things. It's going to read a link, and then the nav grouping, and then some links and some other stuff. If we can hear it.
Our business GM, home, main navigation grouping, list, home link, directory link, membership link, join link. Search the directory, edit. Apply button.
Not very exciting, but you can see that hopefully you can hear that it's reading the name and the role of the things. And that's provided by the accessibility tree into audio in this case, or Braille, or whatever. So sometimes our buttons will do something that isn't immediately obvious to the screen reader user. Let's say that they are unsighted, and the button is going to open a modal, or it's going to reveal something visually on the page. So we'll need to give that visual feedback that we're getting if we're sighted. We need to give that also to people via the screen reader so that they know what's happened. So here we've got a series of buttons with names like delivery information, sizing guide, blah, blah, blah. And if it was just a button, the screen reader is going to just read delivery information button. We can infer something's going to happen because it's a button, but we don't know what that is. It might open a modal, it might do some magic, might submit something. What it's going to do is, as you probably guessed, it's some accordion or disclosure widget. But we need to give that information to the screen reader user. So this is where ARIA comes in. It can help pass information about what's going on to the accessibility tree, and fills in the current gaps that we've got in HTML. So ARIA is split into roles and attributes. With an ARIA role, we can assign the what it is of an element. Again, in most cases, we don't need ARIA to do this. HTML does it. But sometimes, because maybe it doesn't exist yet in HTML, sometimes because it dynamically changes, sometimes because we don't have access to the source HTML, we can use ARIA to do that. There's lots of types of roles. There's a massive spec. Some of these are useful. Some of them are useful not to web developers. They're useful for people who make browsers and stuff. And actually HTML is catching up and making quite a lot of these obsolete. So do read the spec. But how do we use them? It's just a bit like this. You just add the role equals something to your element. So that's how you add a role. But with adding a role, a lot of assumptions come in about what's going to happen, how that's going to work. With an ARIA role, we are overriding the intrinsic role of the HTML element. So we can turn a div into an alert. We can turn a link into a button. We can turn a button into something presentational. We've got to find the right role. I've seen this a lot. People using role menu when they mean role navigation. They're different things. They come with very different assumptions. Menu is used for like your application menus. It's not for navigating a website. Does it matter? When it's just about assumptions. When someone hears it's a menu, they expect it to behave in a particular way. It should operate with some keyboard shortcuts, that kind of thing. So you're increasing the cognitive load for people to actually work out what this relatively simple thing should be. So that brings me to the first rule of ARIA, that a role is a promise. You can change what a thing is by giving it a role, but in most cases saying it is doesn't make it so. With interactive components, really you have to back that promise up with some JavaScript, keyboard functionality, that kind of thing. It's not the thought that counts. So in this case, we've got a div role link. That doesn't actually act as a link. ARIA won't add the clickability. It won't put it in the tab order. It won't actually make it go anywhere. It doesn't provide like the styling or the keyboard behaviors. So we'd have to do something like this to make that role, that link actually a link, which is a lot of work. So this brings us to the first rule of ARIA, which is don't use ARIA. If there is a native HTML element, you should use that. It's intended to fill the information gaps, but we should try not to have gaps in the first place. Okay, attributes. Breathe. Okay, ARIA attributes. Right, they allow us to add attributes to HTML elements that will give information about the state and the property of the thing. There's loads of them again. They come in all sorts of flavors. You do have to read the spec to understand them. I'm just going to look at a couple which are fun. So ARIA expanded. Start easy. So ARIA expanded can be true or false. And it's going to solve this problem that we were looking at earlier. So we've got these buttons, and if you click it, it reveals some other information, like an accordion or a disclosure. So you'll remember when if we didn't add any ARIA to this, if we click that button, we'd just hear the name button. If we add ARIA expanded false to this button while it's closed, then suddenly we will hear nothing. Click. We'll now hear delivery information button collapsed. So with that word collapsed, there's suddenly a lot more information about what's going to happen if you click it. So yeah, then that gets changed when it opens. We change that to ARIA expanded true, and the screen reader will announce expanded instead. So adding that doesn't actually do the work, you've still got to hide, open and close it, and you've got to toggle those states. Unlike the modal example we looked at earlier, we don't need to move focus in there because the content that's appeared is the next one on the page. But yeah, we need to toggle those. The expanded does go on, ARIA expanded does go on the button. I've quite often seen people putting it on the content, which is hidden. That doesn't work because the screen reader can't read something that is hidden from the DOM. And also it won't read ARIA expanded on something that's not an interactive element like a button. So it's ARIA expanded false when it's hidden, ARIA expanded true once it's exposed. Another little gem here, this is an ARIA. This hidden attribute will visually and semantically hide your content. It can come in true or false, or this little nugget which is until found. So that will hide the content, but you can, let's say you link to something within that hidden content, it will automatically open when you land on it. Or you can use your browser's find to find content within that section. It's kind of cool. ARIA Live. I seem to be going really fast. Am I talking really fast? No, good, okay. If content, so if content's updated on the page, not immediately after where we are. So if we've done something and it's updated content elsewhere on the page, we're going to have to tell a screen reader user about it. And this is when we'll make use of ARIA Live. So an ARIA Live message will be announced to the user when they're not focused on it. So remember that a screen reader basically progresses linearly through the page, so it can tell information about the thing that it's currently focused on. But if there's something that's happening elsewhere, we need to tell the screen reader, or the user, in fact, about it. So let's consider a fairly common example for us all, I'm sure. So I'm just going to show you an example where we're typing into well, we've got a list of results, type into a text field, and that filters the results. You get fewer as you go. And the screen reader is going to announce what I'm typing into the input, and that's what all it would announce usually, is just what you're typing into the text field. But with this ARIA Live, it's also going to give us a summary of the results.
T. A. 5 results found. B. 3 results found.
Thrilling. Yeah, so we typed in, it read out the letters I was typing, and then it would, after a pause, it would say 5 results found, 3 results found. Okay, how do we do that? So this is another feature of Drupal that's built into Drupal. It's called Drupal Announce. Some more JavaScript. What's happening? So we're listening for the results changing. But then the interesting bit here is at the bottom, if the visible count is 0, then we're going to Drupal.announce, no results found, try a different search. And it's got this argument of assertive. I'll come back to that. And then if, and then, haven't put the if in, but if it's not 0, it's just going to announce the number of results found. This assertive, so ARIA Live can either be, by default, it's polite, or it can be assertive. Polite will wait until the screen reader has finished what it was announcing, and then tack on the ARIA Live message. Assertive will interrupt it. So we use assertive for something that's really important. This probably isn't that important, but just for the sake. And then what we've got on the front in the markup is we've got a div with this ARIA Live attribute, assertive in this case. It's visually hidden, so you don't see it on the page. It's usually at the bottom, and it's put in the text there. So Drupal Announce injects that text into this region for us, so it takes care of that bit. And the screen reader basically is always watching an ARIA live region and waiting for changes. The ARIA live region has to be there first, empty, for the screen reader to watch it. So if you just make that appear when you want it to announce, it won't consistently work. Sorry, just checking my notes to see if I skipped. Yeah, it also adds a small delay before it does the announce, which makes it work more consistently. I feel like I've forgotten something. Busy. ARIA busy. It's not busy. It's got time. I don't know. I'll Google it for you. Some considerations with ARIA Live. Generally, we should be polite. Generally, you want to be quite concise. You don't need to announce everything that's changed on the page. You just need to announce a summary of what's happened. So in that case, it just said that how many results were left. So the person doesn't have to go like looking through all the results into the results section to find out that there's no results left. And test it a lot. You have to test it quite a bit with a variety of screen readers because they are a little bit inconsistent. And when might we want to use this? So yeah, views with Ajax. It's a big common issue. If your page is about to time out, someone's about to be logged out of something or run out of time, that would be when you'd want to use, and that's when you might want to use it as assertive, if they're going to lose information. Maybe some custom error messages, that kind of thing. This is coming. I'd love, so plans afoot to get Drupal announced to, well, the bottom one is just getting it to work with Ajax views on the front end, but also there's work to get in the admin screen to update like a summary of the preview changes. I think that's really cool. I love Drupal. Yeah, okay. ARIA hidden. I'm not going to go into this much, actually. I didn't think I would have time for it, actually. But the ARIA hidden attribute, we can hide non-interactive content from the accessibility API. And yeah, we've got to be really careful about it because the screen reader user's never going to know whether this content that we've hidden was really important or not, because they just won't hear about it. Okay, we'll do something on testing. Yeah, so we shouldn't be building interactive components without doing a lot of testing. You can use the keyboard. You can try it on your mobile phone. You can zoom in like 500%, try using it there, maybe use it in dark mode. That's all like possible without like learning any new skills really, or downloading anything. And keyboard testing should become second nature, really, when we're building stuff. It's really easy just to check that this thing works. So you go through the page, hit the tab key to move through the interactive elements. You can use shift and tab to move backwards up the page. Say spacebar helps you check a checkbox, or click a button, enter, you can click a link. Alt and left arrow, once you've clicked your link, that's the back button, so it takes you back to the page before. Yeah, so learn the basics. Learn a few more shortcuts and you don't actually have to use your mouse at all. Screen readers are a bit more complicated. I like NVDA, but JAWS is another good option. They both have a lot of usage. They both only work on Windows. So you can use it in a VM, it's quite slow. I've got a very old second-hand Windows laptop that I run it in all the time. And you can run it in browser stack as well, but I find it's a bit clunky. Again, you use all those keyboard shortcuts to navigate, but there's also some letters, individual letters have been set so that you can navigate by particular elements. For example, you can use the H key just to navigate by heading, so you can just hear the headings of the page, or D works for the landmarks. There's an elements list. One thing it's good to know about NVDA is it sets a NVDA key, and basically all the screen readers do that. So one key is nominated as the kind of NVDA key, and then you use that in a combination with some other letters to control the program. So it's usually, I think it's insert by default. I've got mine set to caps lock. I think there's 2 layouts for big keyboard, little keyboard. The accessibility tree, so you can see it in your DevTools. It's really useful for debugging and lets you kind of work out what's gone wrong sometimes if it's not sounding right. And you can see when things have been overridden. So here the placeholder's been overridden, and the name of whatever this thing was filter ARIA roles. And so you can see what's so the inheritance, basically what's happened there. So it's very useful. I think you need. I can't remember how to turn it on, but it's there. Automated tools. So there was a talk in here earlier. Ricardo was talking about automated accessibility testing. Absolutely agree. It's really important. But there is a problem with automated accessibility testing, particularly with interactive components. Well, there's quite a few problems, but mainly they usually only test your component in its default state. So it's hard to get them to test consistently your modal when it's open, or when it's done this, or when it's done that. So manual testing is important. However, it's really good at spotting when you've used like the wrong ARIA role with the wrong thing, like that sort of illegal markup stuff. So, but it's very easy to write inaccessible code which passes automated testing. So what have we learned? We want to take our keyboard users along with us for the ride by managing focus and trapping it when necessary. Let them leave our widgets at will. Tell people what's going on when there's something changing. Always be polite. And never break your promises. And there you go. Any questions?
I'm not sure if this is a stupid question, but like, do all element, or you said that HTML elements have like an intrinsic ARIA role? Is that like all HTML elements, or is it only like buttons and links and things that do something?
They all have a role, but some of those roles are like null, like not really a thing. So a div, for example, is like, I think there's a word for it. Does anyone here remember? But yeah, basically they do all have a role. So they all have a role. ARIA role is a way of defining that role. So they don't all have an ARIA role. They have a role. Yeah, got me. Yeah. Yeah.
This isn't so much of a question, but more of an interesting observation, as I have recently encountered myself to be suddenly deaf, which is why my foot is broken, because it kind of messes with your balance. So this was very difficult to focus on you. But something about touch typing that probably no one ever thought about, that I have become dyslexic with my typing because my ears, what I hear is processed differently between each hand, so I can no longer type normally anymore. So that's an interesting one that we never have covered in these kind of accessibility topics in the past. I've never heard of it before, but I hear things at different speeds now, so. As if it's something funny to hear about.
All right, thank you. I got a question. I'm using VoiceOver, and when I'm testing, you navigate differently with Control and Option and the arrows. and it moves differently than through the tab navigation, and it is differently regarding NVDA or JAWS and gives different output. Is it, do you pick your poison and hope for the best, or is there a tool I have to use which is conform?
So VoiceOver is they all work slightly differently. There's quite a lot of overlap in their output, I suppose. But how you actually manage them, so it's quite hard to switch from one to the other. I recommend, particularly for desktop, I do recommend Windows and JAWS because they are much more widely used by people who need them. When there's like a poll that goes out, I think it's yearly, to find out the usage of screen readers, and the use of VoiceOver on desktop is quite skewed by the number of developers who fill in that poll. So yeah, I do recommend that. However, on the other hand, VoiceOver on mobile devices is much higher usage. So I wouldn't say don't use it, but it does work a little bit differently. But you don't like building well should work. We should be testing on all of the things. Yeah. So.
Keep it here. Yes, do I need a different device because I'm developing on the Mac, and I don't know if I can get a Windows device for local development, testing it on there, and I don't know, is this best practice? This is something I'm already asking myself, and I had a question regarding third-party providers. Because I had an issue with a focus trap, because when I do something, I tend to use focus traps if they are necessary. And this third-party provider does not provide a focus trap in its solution. And can I do it with your approach with Drupal's, what was it again? The tabbing manager, I guess, and or do I have to contact the provider? Two questions, actually.
You could try for the first one, which was using NVDA. You can try using a service like Browser Stack, which is like a testing tool. You can test across devices, and they do let you use NVDA. I haven't quite got it working as well as it does on my Windows machine. I don't know more than that about best practice. Definitely contact the third-party provider, complain, or ask if it's on their roadmap. Whether you can use, I don't know. Somebody else might. Do you want to say which third-party provider it is? User Snap. I don't know. There's probably a way of mangling it, but yeah, best would be to go to them and ask them to be better.
A short word on accessibility overlays, perhaps?
Which word would you like? So accessibility overlays, by which we mean they're like a service that is becoming more prolific, that generally tend to, like a third-party service, that promise to make your website 100% compliant just by adding this little piece of JavaScript. They sometimes come with some tools, like a toolbar, which, you know, will read the page aloud to you, or that kind of thing. Increase text, give you some color schemes, which those in themselves aren't like awful, but the promise of compliance through a third-party system is entirely, it's so toxic. It's very problematic. So there's a big movement in the accessibility community to basically do our best to kind of shut them down, because one, they don't make a site accessible. They cover up a lot of bad practice, or they try to. They actually interfere a lot of the time with people who are using systems. They don't help people learn actually how to change their devices to be better for their needs. A list of things, but there's lots of much more articulate people than me have written tons about it. There's a website called accessibilityoverlays.com that will give you a good and thorough rendition. Was that the word you wanted? Okay. Okay. Good. Let's stop there.